I had a ton of people ask me to record this call, and there's a lot of people that can't be on it, but I think this is a topic that a lot of people have questions on, and so I kind of wanted to go through it. So, um, the due on sale clause. So, for anybody that's in here that maybe doesn't know what that is, um, well, let's start with this. Does everybody on this call know what a subject to deal is, where you take over the payments on the existing lien? I just want to make sure everyone knows that. So, the way that we buy houses oftentimes is the seller has a mortgage, right? And we offer to take ownership of the house and we leave the mortgage in place and then we continue to make payments on their behalf, right? So we leave the mortgage in their name, we make the payments for them. So that's what a subject to deal is, okay? Now, one of the biggest reasons why somebody would avoid doing a subject to deal is because of something called the due on sale clause. So, what is this? Essentially, in every single mortgage that you sign up for, there is a clause in there that states that the lender has the right to call the loan due and ask for full payment if they find out that you transferred ownership of the property without paying off that mortgage. Okay. Now, let's kind of take it at a high level for a second. Why do you think a lender would put that in a mortgage clause? Like, why should they have that right? Why do they have that right?
I have an idea. They
Yeah, just
want to
anything.
make sure that, okay, I sold my house
Hmm.
and I have $200,000 left on the loan. I could just take all the money from the sale. Let's say I sold for 250. I could just keep that 250,000 and not pay off the loan and then quit paying the loan because I don't have the house that it belongs to anymore. And
Hmm.
then the lender is out of luck at that point.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah. The hard part with that is like it would show up on title. So like a buyer, the title company wouldn't close that unless, that lien
Mhm.
was paid off or at least disclosed. So the buyer would know they're paying for like 450, for example. But I do what you're saying, but essentially what I would like to look at on this is that the the bank, right, the lender, they qualified you as the borrower, right? So they checked your credit, they checked your income, your debt to income ratio, they checked all that stuff. And they said, "Hey, you're safe enough for us to lend to." But who did they not qualify?
The new buyer.
The new buyer, right? They have no idea who this new buyer is. And so if you transfer ownership to somebody that is irresponsible, that doesn't have reserves, that doesn't have good credit or whatever it is, do you think that that lender should have the right to call that loan due since they're putting their money on the line?
Absolutely.
Yes, I think that's fair, right? Now, here's kind of the key distinction here. Just because they have the right to call the loan due does not mean that they have the obligation to call it due. Okay? This is an important distinction because they rarely exercise this right. Now, it does happen, and it's happening more often than it used to. But it's not something that's just like they see it and then okay, automatically they just call it due. Like that's not how that works. And there's plenty
Mhm.
of lenders out there that know this is happening. Of course, like you
Mhm.
think the big lenders don't know this is happening, right? At a high
Completely.
level. But it's just, is it worth their time to go dig through and try to find all of these? And even if they found it, is it worth their time to really go through the foreclosure process, which we can talk about later? So here's what lenders actually care about. Care about payments being made on time every single month, which we'll talk about that. They care about their asset being protected with proper insurance. That's probably the biggest reason why I feel like most of these end up getting called due. And they're not hunting for like title transfers. They're not like digging through to see like, oh my gosh, like let's check on this property. Now, do they do random audits at times? Some of these mortgage companies, yes. Right. So that's something you need to be aware of. And if you don't know how to handle this the right way, you shouldn't be doing these deals. Like you need to at least understand that it's a risk, understand it can happen, right? But the likelihood of it is very slim. Like we've done over 100 of these. I've never had it happen personally. I have had one that I assigned where it was called due, and it was a very easy fix, which we can talk about in a minute. So, how to mitigate it? The first section we talked about was payments being made on time, right? So, have any of y'all have heard of like a third party payment processor servicing company? Have you heard of that before? A lot of times these people that buy subject to deals, they'll like hire a third party service to like take money from their account and then like it'll pay the mortgage. I recommend just logging into the mortgage portal directly. It's a lot easier that way. Set it up on automatic payments so you don't have to like rely on a third party to make the payments for you. It's just direct. Plus, you're paying them a fee for kind of doing nothing, in my opinion, besides potential delays, which happened to me, which is why I stopped doing that. So that's the first thing. Now, when it comes to insurance, in general, first off, I will say this. It's very important that you get a new insurance policy when you buy a property subject to. The reason why I'm talking about this is because when I first got started, the amount of overthinking I did around this topic was like unreal. Because I'm hearing one person say, "Hey, you should just leave the seller's policy in place and don't do anything. That way it doesn't raise any red flags." Right? I heard someone else saying, "Oh, you should have their insurance policy with the mortgage company, and then you should buy a separate insurance policy, so you should pay two policies at one time." And then I had someone else telling me, "Oh, you should get a new policy and then cancel their old policy." Like, can you see how that would be confusing for somebody just starting out? It's like, what do I do? What am I supposed to do? So, in my opinion, I think the best thing to do is to get a new policy with your name on that policy as the primary insured, and then you have the seller as the additional insured. Okay. Now, it's much better for you to be protected and have insurance that actually works, that's in your name, if
Mhm.
something were to go south. Like if the house burns down, I wouldn't want to have a policy that's just in the seller's name. That's not, that's no bueno. That's not a good idea. What's also not good is having two insurance policies. Because what's the thing about insurance companies? Do they like
Uh,
paying out? No.
no.
So if they find out there's another insurance policy, what are they going to do? They're going to say, "Well, I'm not paying. The other ones." You know what I mean? Like that's the dance. So that's kind of why I came to that conclusion of, okay, you need to get a new policy. Now, why would somebody be scared to get a new policy and try to switch it out? Why would someone be scared about that? A
Because
new
they
investor?
would think the mortgage company has to know
Yeah, right. And they do have to know. And what do they have to know? What's the extent that they have to know?
that they're getting a new policy.
Yeah, that there's a new policy, right? And
Mm.
so the reality is like the people checking this, right? Because I think what they're scared of is that the mortgage company is gonna review this insurance policy. They're gonna see it and they're gonna say, "Wait, who is Cindy Davidson? This isn't the borrower. Wait, what's going on here?" And then they're gonna go and like dig through title and figure this out. Now, the reality is like 99% of the time that's not going to happen. Because like the person reviewing these policies are in a separate division handling insurance, and they're getting probably hundreds, if not thousands of papers where they're checking boxes on, okay, is the borrower's name on this policy? Where is it? Okay, there it is. Check. That's all they're doing.
I got a question. So you don't
Yeah.
have to call, you do it all online?
No, yeah, you can. Oftentimes, what you do is you get the your insurance provider to send it to be billed directly to escrow.
Hmm.
So yeah, so you just tell them, "Hey, I want this to be billed through escrow." Your insurance agent will send that to the mortgage company. So you tell them who the mortgage company is. They send it to the mortgage company to be accepted. And then it's your job just to check in and just make sure that that policy was accepted. Like 90% of the time, that's how it goes.
When you call the insurance company to set up this new policy, do you explain to them the sub two, what you're doing, why you're getting the new insurance? And then does the homeowner have to be on the phone with you, or how does that work?
No, the homeowner doesn't have to be on the phone with you, which is good. But I do generally recommend that you work with somebody that understands what's happening. So like try to find an insurance agent that has done a subject to like insurance policy. They understand like why you're setting it up that way. Otherwise, they could let some things slip that like it's better off not to. Which I have some recommendations for anybody if you need somebody that's good at that.
So is that how you found someone to work with? Okay.
Just asking the other investors that were doing it.
Okay.
Just like y'all could do. It's the same thing. Just
Okay.
reaching out to people that have been doing it longer, like just, "Hey, who do you use?" kind of thing. And there's plenty of people out there that understand it at this point. Steadily is a pretty big company, and a lot of them understand how to do them now as well. Um, so that's the thing. Now their job is to verify, right? It's not to like investigate into like the title, like we talked about. So realistically, Amir's hopping on here. Realistically, really the third thing before we get into like what actually happens if they call it is you also need to have a power of attorney when you buy a subject to deal, right? So this power of attorney, it's limited to the property, the mortgage, the insurance, and what that does is it allows you to essentially call the lender, right? Or call really anybody in association with the property without having the borrower on the phone. So when you buy a subject to deal, it's really important to call the lender, let them know, hey, I'm submitting the power of attorney, blah, blah, blah. Or you can even submit it through the online portal, whatever's easier. But here's the key phrases. When you're talking to the mortgage company, you never want to say, I am the buyer or I am the owner. You want to say, I am the asset manager. Why do we say that? Because we're not trying to invoke this clause, and they don't need to know anything beyond the fact that we're managing the asset, right? Hey, I'm managing the asset. I'm the asset manager for the property. Cool. We'll leave it at that. I have a power of attorney. Sometimes you don't have to say that. A lot of times you can just say, hey, my name's Evan Ragsdale. I have a power of attorney. They look it up and they'll talk to you. Right? It's that simple. Sandy, I think you're muted.
Did I miss how you get the homeowner to sign the power of attorney?
Just through closing. It would just be like a closing document.
Okay.
Yeah, so we just have that in our closing documents and they just sign that.
Does anyone ask you what it is, or do you explain to them this gives you the right? No, you just have
Very
them.
rarely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I used to explain all this stuff and I was just like, they don't even like look at it, honestly.
I know.
Which is not good, but it's just true.
It's like the terms of service. You scroll to the bottom and then accept.
Yeah, exactly. And if they ask about it, it's like, I'm happy to talk to you about it. It's okay. Um,
And it's a limited power of attorney, obviously.
right. It's like I can't make decisions on their health and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, Now, the other thing is the borrower, when you call in, like if you need to talk about who the actual borrower is, the person on the loan, you don't want to call them the seller, right? You want to say they're the borrower. I know this is like simple things, but it's mistakes that you can make that could be kind of costly if you like get yourself into a hole. So just like be careful with that. Now, what actually happens if they call the loan due? Does anybody actually know what happens? Has anyone ever like heard about this? Because it almost like it's like a mythical creature that like people talk about, but
I
it's
think
like
I've heard you talk about it where you do something like do a lease option.
what happens though, like when they call it? Like how do you
Yeah,
know that kind
Oh,
I know what happens.
of course you know, man. Of course. Tell me
What
about it. Tell me what
what
you know.
happens is that the lender has the right but not the obligation to
Mhm.
call the note due, meaning
Sure.
that they can but they don't have to. So
Correct.
it's sometimes it happens, but they're not gonna call it because they're not in the business of like foreclosing on people.
Mhm.
They're in the business of collecting interest and monthly payments.
Correct.
So yeah.
So what happens if they find out and they want to call a loan due?
they
That's what
send
I'm
you
asking. What
send you
happens? Do you
paperwork?
automatically get foreclosed on? Do you automatically lose the
No,
house? Like what happens?
they send you paper. They send you a letter.
Yes, they send you a letter, so that starts here. And they give you roughly 35 days. Usually the letter says 35 days for some reason. Hey, you have 35 days to remedy the situation, to fix what you've done. We know what happened. We know that you took title to this subject to and you didn't pay off the loan. So we will call the loan due if you don't fix the situation in 35 days. Okay? That's what they tell you. Now, the options they give you: one, you can sell it to pay it off. Two, you can refinance it to pay it off. Or three, they give you the option to deed it back to the borrower. Those are the three options. Okay, real quick. I just took it up. What are the three options?
You can sell it to pay it
Uh-huh.
off. You can deed it back.
Hmm.
Gosh, I forgot already.
You got
Refinance.
this.
Refinance. That's right.
Boom. Way to
Alex.
go. Okay.
Thanks, Alex.
Now, here's an important distinction. This is a team effort right here tonight. Okay. This is a contractual default. So when you
Mm.
sign a mortgage and you agreed all these terms and you sell a property subject to, you are agreeing to default on your mortgage. That is the truth.
Wait a
And that
minute.
doesn't sound good.
Say
Like
that
that
again
sounds like,
now. What was
oh, that
that?
sounds gross. But what?
What was that now?
I guess I'm just trying to point out the fact that while subject to is not illegal, and this is why I think people talk about it being illegal, is that you are signing a mortgage that states, I'm going to do this, 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 I'm going to pay on this time, on this day, I'm going to pay this amount, and I will not sell my property subject to,
Got you. Is that
basically.
actually in that?
I mean, that's what the due on sale clause is there for,
Huh.
is that I am saying, hey, I'm agreeing that if I sell my property, I have to pay off this loan. That's what you're saying. And so the due on sale clause is there. So they have the right, if you decide to default on your agreement and sell it subject to, they
You're
have the
saying
right
you're
to call the loan.
defaulting. The homeowner's defaulting when they sell it sub two.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I
Sure.
always heard it's been around for like 40 years, subject to, and that it's actually on the HUD statement,
Mhm.
but it's still considered defaulting, even though
Yeah.
it's been legal forever.
Yeah. Because it is legal. It is legal. It's not illegal. It's just a default on your mortgage. Like for
Okay.
example, here's the easiest great example. Cindy and I, we write up a contract. Cindy, I don't know. Let's come to an agreement. What's a good agreement? Um, if you stay on this call until 6:30, I will buy you coffee next time we meet up. Okay. We're gonna write up in our contract. Boom, we wrote it down. Is that an official contract? Does everyone agree that's a contract if we write it out and sign it? Okay, cool.
Mhm.
That's a contract. Now, let's say I go meet Cindy and we go get coffee. And I'm like, Cindy, I'm not gonna pay you for that. I'm not gonna pay you coffee. Am I defaulting on our contract
Yes.
according to the terms of our agreement? Yes. Does that make it illegal what I just did?
No.
No. Does that make sense? Am I gonna get arrested for that?
So it's not illegal to default on a contract.
No. It's not
Okay.
Well,
illegal.
it's not illegal to, quit making your payments on your home. You're just going to lose it.
Good point.
Correct. It's
Good
not
point.
illegal, but they also have ways of enforcing their agreement.
Okay, got it.
That's all I'm trying to clarify. So, yes, it's on the HUD, like you said. Yes, title companies will do it. All of that. But at the end of the day, you are defaulting on your mortgage by selling a property subject to.
Okay.
That is the truth of it, which is why it's under the radar. Right? And that sounds gross and whatever, but also it's like if we're talking about ethics here, are we really gonna like look up to the banks? I don't know. But that would kind of be my question. So, okay. Now, what happens if you get a notice? There's a couple options you can take. One, you could just call their bluff. You can make an extra payment or two, and I would say probably about 50% of the time they go away. Like I've had probably two other friends that have had loans called due that did this exact thing. They made an extra payment that month just to kind of like show that they're on top of things.
Mhm.
And they never got a call again about it.
Hmm.
So a lot of times when you get a notice, it's sometimes the stuff is just automated. Like Rocket Mortgage has become really notorious for this recently, where they will send out these notices and in hopes that kind of the easy people will just pay it off. You know what I mean? Like the people that are like really scared about it will just pay it off, right? And get done with it. Because that's ultimately that's fine. If they could do that, that's easy for them, cool. But like for them to have to go through foreclosure to enforce this, that's a whole different story, right? So you have to keep that in mind. As long as you're not locked out of a mortgage portal, you're generally in good shape. Once they lock you out, it's like, okay, now this is getting serious. Okay, because now they're not allowing you to make payments, right? The second thing you do is you can call the lender, and like I said, banks are not incentivized to foreclose. They want performing notes. Generally, they have a score where like basically have a yearly score where every time they foreclose on a note that like isn't performing, it reduces their score as a bank. And so like they're incentivized not to foreclose on these if they can help it. And I can tell you this, like Griffin, Cindy, and Amir, I think are all on here. It's like how many cases do we run into of like where we're like, how has this person not been foreclosed on yet? You know what I
All
mean?
the time.
All the time. And so it's like it shows you like they will go through a lot, especially the bigger banks, to not have to do this, right? Because a lot of these people are underwater as well. Like there's a ton of these people that are not, so you have to like keep that in mind as well. The third option is you could sell it or refinance. The last option, which is, really the option that I would recommend after calling the lender is you can deed the property back to the seller and you can restructure the paperwork really how they deem fit. Like if they've said, "Hey, we would like it to be done this way," then do it that way. But if they're just saying, "Hey, we're not going to work with you," then you deed the property back, right, to the original borrower,
Mhm.
which then fixes the situation, do on sales off the table. Okay, cool. Solution fixed. Now, I've put money in as an investor, I put money into this deal, I put time into this deal. So I still want to control the asset, right? We're just fixing this temporarily. So what are some options you can take after you've deeded it back? What
A
could you
lease
do?
option?
Yes, you could purchase on a lease option, right? Good. What else could we do?
A trust.
Yeah, you could put it into a trust. Why do people put properties into a trust? What's the point of putting it into a
Because
trust
You
like
avo
that?
Both of their names can be on it at the same time.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it reduces the visibility tremendously.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So create some how do you say it? Anonymity? Yeah. So that's good, right? What's a third option? What else could we do?
Heard of a land contract. I don't really know how it works, but
Mm-hmm.
heard of it.
Yep. Yeah, a land contract or an executory contract. Does anybody know how to explain besides Amir?
I
I'm joking. Is Amir even on here? Can
think
anybody
he
explain what an executory contract is in easy terms?
Once the payment's fulfilled is when the contract is ex
Yeah, exactly. So like you don't get title or you don't you don't your title's not recorded, you don't get title day one, but once you pay it off, just like when you have a car, for example, right? When you pay off the car, you get full title. Like I paid off my car a couple weeks ago. Okay, I paid it off. I didn't have title yet, and then they literally mailed me the physical title. So it's like now I'm the owner, right? But
Hmm.
before it's like I was controlling like the asset, like I was, the owner of the car. I could go paint the car or do whatever I wanted with it. But you don't get the physical title until then. Does that make sense? So it's a way of kind of getting around it where there's some hidden visibility as well. Um, Bottom line, like foreclosure takes longer than 2 weeks. It's not like you're just going to lose the house right away, right? In Tennessee, it's a little bit shorter, but like we said, most of these banks are not incentivized to like just rush this process super fast. And you have more options, than you think. And like these banks have more of a reason to work with you than against you, I would say, especially if you're just upfront about, what's going on, especially if that does come up. So I just wanted to kind of make this because I think it's like important to understand like that it is real, but like there's like real ways to manage it, and it doesn't have to be as scary as you think. So I'll kind of leave it open here for like Q&A. It can be on this, it could be about deals, it could be about anything, but hopefully this was helpful and kind of understanding it like at a high level. So what questions do we have or thoughts or feedback?
You
Can
said,
I
go ahead.
get a little explanation of like what a lease option is?
Cindy, do you want to explain that?
It's been so long. You have an option. You lease it to the person with the option to buy. They don't have to buy. As
Okay.
opposed to a lease agreement, they have to buy within 3 years. And you
Okay.
might set it up for 3 years. You have the option to buy it at the end of that term.
Okay. So if let's say we're buying a house subject to, and we're doing it through a lease option, then let's say I'm the seller, I'd sell it to them through that lease option, then that's like, say 10 years. They have the option to buy it in 10 years. And then all the payments they made during that time would like count towards I guess, the purchase price. Am I understanding that correctly?
You can set it up a couple ways. I don't know how you'd set it up for the subject to.
Okay.
Exactly, because you can set it up where when I did it, however long they paid, it did not go toward their mortgage. It was just as if they were paying rent, but they had the opportunity to then own it at the end of usually like 3 years.
Okay.
can help you, Alex, 'cause I'm actually about to do two different ones in two different ways. So there's an optionee and an optioner. Essentially, in one position, I'm giving the seller an option to buy the house after I rehab it. So I don't have to give them any money up front, but I'm going to use my own money to go in and fix the house. And then when
Mhm.
I go to sell it, I'm going to then exercise that option to buy it at the same time that I'm going to sell it.
Mm,
And then in another scenario, I have a tenant who's living in the house that doesn't have the credit yet to buy the house outright. They have to repair their credit. So
Mhm.
I'm leasing them the house, and they're going to give me a sum of money as an option fee, and then I'm going to give them time to repair their credit, and hopefully they buy the house with me within a year's time.
mm,
If they don't exercise that option within that year's time, I keep their option fee. I don't have any obligation to give that back to them. So it's like there's many different ways to structure an option agreement, but those are just two different examples.
Okay, cool.
that's great. Did that make sense, Alex? Or do you have any other questions on that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I guess the one thing that I have is with a option. Let's say we're paying $5,000 for the option, and then we'd sell it to pay the full purchase price. A year later or whenever it is that we go to buy it.
Hmm.
Okay.
It can be made for whatever terms y'all agree to,
Okay.
essentially.
$5,000, you could agree to have that come off the purchase price.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the cool thing about all this. You can kind of just make it up.
Yeah. As long as two consenting adults agree.
Yep. Hmm. I agree. I asked that one time. It was the property that I always kind of talk about with the 0% that I
Hmm.
brought up, and I've heard some like different things around that where I was like, some people have said like, oh, you can get in trouble for doing that because there's no interest and blah blah blah, and then I've heard other people say it's fine, and I asked um, one of my attorneys that I work with, and
Hmm.
he said the same thing. He was like, look, the market. He's like that. He looked into it. He's like, that's fine, and he's like, also the market value of what the property is like what you're willing to pay for it, and she accepted it and said it's fine. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
as long as you know like in your heart that you're not screwing somebody over and like
Yeah.
trying to like pull like one over on them by like using your knowledge
Yeah.
and expertise over trying to take advantage of somebody, like that's just kind of where I draw the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if somebody knows like, hey, here's the cost,
Hmm.
here's roughly where we need to be, and we're gonna make really good money and they're cool with that, then like I'm happy,
Hmm.
But if they think their house is worth 200,000
Hmm.
and I tell them, yeah, you're right about that, and it's really worth 400, it's like you're a dirtbag, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I see
like
what you're getting at.
don't do that. Yeah, not cool. So, because most people
Hmm.
know nowadays. Like you can look it up on Zillow, and it's like it's
Yeah.
not that hard to find out a rough idea. But
Hmm.
there are still those special cases where sometimes, like we've done this before, where there's somebody that's maybe a little bit older, or somebody that we feel like just doesn't, maybe isn't quite in the right mind, where it's like, hey,
Hmm.
do you have like an advocate or somebody that could kind of be here for you on a call so we can talk through it together? Because
Hmm.
I don't know, you just don't want to be in a position like that. It's tough. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Just like you don't want to use your specialized knowledge
hmm.
to hold somebody over the coals. You want to
Yeah.
kind of like what you were talking about earlier with the contracts and all the legalese in there and going through and explaining it,
Hmm.
because you want them to understand what each thing means and
Hmm.
what it is they're agreeing to.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like I mean, of course you invest time and you
Mhm.
invest money to learn skills, right? To learn tools, like learning how to do this, for example, like subject to learning what to do on sale. Like you took time out of your week to like be on this call to learn things, right? Hopefully for us
Mhm.
to like learn and grow. And so like it
Mhm.
makes sense for you to be able to make money because of that. Like
Yeah.
yes. But it's just like to what extent, is kind of the
Mhm.
hard part. And it's all
Yeah.
situational based on how much does the person need it? Like, are they sick? Like, what's going on? You got to figure all that out. So, anyways, what other questions we have or other thoughts or deals, anything? Unless y'all got nothing you're working on.
Just curious, how would you present that if they do call the due on sale clause? I can't remember. You said it's never happened or it's happened twice.
It's never happened to me on a deal I've purchased. It's happened on one deal that I signed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what the danger is if you would sign the deed back to them and do some kind of whatever you choose to do, lease option. Like, how would you explain that to them? Because they don't want it back, right?
Right.
Property. So I guess they would agree with you what you're doing.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, a lot of times it's good to have somewhat of a conversation about it on the front end, just so they understand that, like, hey, this is something that potentially could happen and that we would deal with. Like, and I think there's ways to say it where it's not like it doesn't have to be this scary thing because we just outlined it's like, okay, easy answer, we need it back. It's like it's not like the end of the world. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like you could do that without even you can deed that back without their involvement. It's like you could deed it and record it. So I think that the conversation after, let's say it happens, is going to them and saying, "Hey, we got this notice from the lender. It sounds like they had a problem with this transaction, which we talked about, like might happen, and this
Mhm.
happened." And so, really, at this point, we this is pretty serious because they could try to call the loan and they could potentially try to like foreclose. And you don't have to use these scary words, but you could just say they could try to call the loan due, which could affect your credit if we don't do something about it. Just to kind of get them on your side of like, hey, this is important.
Mhm.
And so I don't want that to happen. This is like it would be an easy fix, but we need to figure out why they have a problem with it so we can kind of talk to them through it. And then I also have a friend like Caleb Christopher who like handles this for a living. That's like what he does. Like you pay him a fee and he solves it for you, which is like what I would recommend. It's pretty easy because he knows way more about this than I do. He's like type of dude that like reads these like mortgages for fun, like when he's like on his own. I'm like, bro, like get out and do something, No, he's cool. I love him. But like, you want those people in your corner that actually like read the
Oh
fine
yeah.
print. That yeah. So um that's the conversation. And it's like, hey, and worst case, if it's like, okay, now we're at the place where the mortgage company wants us to deed it back to you. So obviously we spent money on this and time, and so we still want to be in the deal, and maybe for their time and effort, it's like, hey, I'm happy to pay you $1,500 or something like that, just because this is kind of an inconvenience. And what we'll do is like I'll deed the property to you, and then you're just gonna basically, however we want to purchase that on a lease option, contract for deed. We just need you to fill out some paperwork because we're still going to control the asset just like we promised you. It's just we just have to structure it differently.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I
Because
think
they
that would
don't
be the
want it
conversation.
back.
No,
They've moved on. They don't, yeah.
that's the thing. Like that's why I've never understood the whole like pitch of. There's so many people that pitch that where it's like, okay, but like worst case, you get all of the stuff back and whatever. And it's like I don't know. Like if that's not gonna be the thing that like gets someone over the hump of like, oh, okay, sweet. I can get like the future appreciation of the house and that's great. It's like they don't want to deal with the problem. You know what I mean? Like they just want to know it's out of the picture. Now, I'm not saying you can't use that, but it's like using that as like a primary pitch to get someone to do subject to. It's like, eh,
Yeah.
no. They already know they're trying to make their money now. They're not thinking otherwise they would keep the property, you know. So
Okay.
keep that in mind. But that's a good thought. Luckily, I haven't had to have that conversation yet. I'm sure I will at some point. So part of it, something you kind of accept.
Yeah. Do you know how that conversation would go with the lender? So let's say they've sent the notice that they're calling the loan due,
Hmm.
and you just pick up the phone and talk with them. Just be like, hey, look, I bought this house sub two. As you can see, I've been making all the payments. You know, what do we do from here?
Yeah, and to be honest, I can't speak for that because I just have never done it.
Okay, fair.
Um, so I don't know fully, to be honest with you, but I would assume that it's a conversation of, hey, we need to speak to someone in management, explain the situation. Hey, we got this notice. What do we need to do to resolve this? And at that point, it's just kind of like a negotiation.
Sure.
That's what I've heard from people that have actually had these conversations.
Okay.
And they said a lot of times they're saying, and sometimes, like I have a friend, and hey, Allison, by the way, good to see you. Allison's awesome. If y'all haven't met her, she's a part of like Ren and yeah. Anyways, I got to meet her the other night. She's cool. But yeah, thanks for taking your time out of your night just to be here for a little bit. So uh, some of y'all may know Will Bohr, which he's awesome. He's a mentor of mine, and he was telling me that he actually had to call a bank one time because they had called a loan and it was like a smaller bank. And he just called him and he said, hey, like I stopped this guy's foreclosure. I caught it up. We made payments every month. Like, what's the problem? And the guy was like, well, I don't really like that you did this and blah, blah, blah. And he was just like, okay, well, we can let it go back into foreclosure and like stop making the payments, or we can just keep making it. Like, which one do you want to do? And
Love
the
it.
guy just backed off and he just said, okay, like y'all just keep doing it. So there's that, especially for a small bank. I think that would be a harder sell with a bigger lender, but it's good to know. Good thought.
Do you know if there's any particular lenders that have like a reputation
Hmm.
for doing this?
Rocket Mortgage.
Rocket, okay. And they're one of the big players, right?
Rocket Mortgage, and they just inherited. I can't remember if it's Hmm. I don't remember. It's not Mr. Cooper, I don't think. I think it was one of the other ones. But like PennyMax, pretty good to work with. Shell Point's been pretty good to work with. Freedom Mortgage is pretty good to work with. I've had great experiences with all three of those. Wells Fargo, I've heard is pretty good at
Okay.
times. I've even done one with like Pinnacle. That one's kind
Mhm.
of brutal. That's like the hardest one I've ever done because like they're not like a huge one, but they're not
Mhm.
also like super small either. And so it's like trying to like log into like they don't have like a mortgage portal. So every month I
Oh,
have to like get in and like make a manual payment and then like I had to like get to like the branch manager and like explain to him like that I was the power of attorney and then like their attorneys didn't like my power of attorney document and like him and I have become like best friends it feels like because we had to talk so much. His name is Reggie. He's like super cool guy. And I was worried because like he was like, is everything okay with the borrower? Like what's going on? And that's where you have to just like less is better. Like, and I'm just
mhm.
like, hey, I have a power of attorney. Like, he gave me this for a reason, and it's because he's not able to communicate right now. Like that, just keep it short and sweet. And you can be kind about it. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like
Yeah.
that's why he's not here. So, yeah,
Cool.
yeah, for sure. So, I would say those are probably the best ones. Have y'all heard of any other ones that are not good or good? Those are the ones I know of. So. Hmm. What else? Anything else? Allison, you got a flip you're working on right now, right?
I do. I
How's
do.
that
And I'm
going?
going to look at another one on Saturday,
There we
potentially.
Nice.
go.
So
Where's the flip that you're currently doing?
it's in East Nashville.
Oh, cool.
We just did a tour of it last Friday, but we'll be doing another one. So
Oh,
I'll
really?
have to, yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Very cool.
I, my friend Tim Davis has a flipping coaching program, and so
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah. So, anyways,
Super
it's going
cool.
great. I have a great GC. If you ever need a Nashville GC,
Thank you.
um, yeah.
I've never
So
flipped over there, like in East Nashville or any of the cool areas. I always get we always get the lame areas, I feel like. We're always like in like
Yeah.
I don't know, we're always in like Pulaski or like we're like I like the coolest one we've gotten is like what, Knoxville? I don't know. Pegram?
well,
Yeah.
but you've gotten multiples. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with,
Oh man.
your numbers, and also you do a great job of explaining, Evan.
Thank
You,
you. I work
yeah,
on
For
it.
I mean,
sure.
I've been watching your content, so this is my first time here, and
Oh, that's
I love how
awesome.
you ask questions. I'm a teacher by nature, so
Uh
I'm always critiquing people who are teaching, and I appreciate
oh
how
that's
you did that tonight.
oh thank you. Thank you. I want to be better about that. I just because I wish it was more I wish it was a little more simple for like people just like starting out. Because it took me like 3 years probably to understand some of these like concepts that I feel like shouldn't have
I
taken
think
that
that's
long.
like the vetting process for those of us that make it through. It's
Yeah.
like it's almost like it's early on we have to get through that uncomfortable learning stage, and if we don't make it, then it's probably not the right fit for us, right? So I actually
Yeah.
don't want it to be too simple because then more people will be doing it and they'll probably be doing it
Mm.
incorrectly. It's
So
such a
right.
It's a good
subject
point.
to is such a delicate agreement, wanting us protecting that seller is
Mm.
really important. So I love how you
Yeah.
also make that a priority and how you talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely important. Is there anything like that? I mean, because obviously you know a ton of investors. Like, is there anything that you've kind of seen like when it comes to subject to that's kind of maybe caught your attention as like a red flag or like anything that you feel like is worth kind of bringing up that you've seen recently with the other investors?
Yeah, I think it's always interesting when we wholesale subject to deals.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very delicate. I've looked at some of those deals before. When I talk to the wholesaler, I'm like, okay, but you understand that I need to talk to this seller. Like, I
Yeah.
understand you've negotiated the deal and I don't want to get in the way of that at all, but
Mm-hmm.
this seller and I are going to have a relationship for the next X number of years in some way, shape, or form. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and so most of them have been really open to that. But
That's good.
that's where inexperienced people who don't really understand subject to, they sometimes know that they've got a really great opportunity, but they don't know how to structure it correctly. So I love that you're
Totally.
helping people learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Um, And one of
Mm.
my mentors, Vina Jones Cox, she teaches about how to use the trust as a way to protect the seller.
I would love to learn more about that because
Yep.
I don't know hard. I mean, I know very little about it. I know people that swear by it, and I also know people that have like put properties into trust that have had loans called due. So I know it's not foolproof, but I know it's generally better than the alternative if you want to go through the
Yeah.
extra steps.
So it really protects the seller from the event that we get unexpectedly injured or killed, right? Like,
Mm,
so if I get hit by a bus and I can't pay my bills, of course my creditors get affected, but if I have a subject to deal, then the seller gets impacted by no fault of their own, right? So the trust really helps make sure that that seller is ultimately protected, um and so that's the only thing that I think is really important,
mm.
is to make that a really high priority. And yes,
That's
a
interesting.
trust can cause the due on sale clause. But
Sure.
like
I
you've
mean,
said,
any of
there's a
it
lot of
can.
a lot of
Yeah.
ways around that.
Yeah, but I mean, it seems like a better for somebody that like wants to set that up and like is it likes that deal structure, then it's like,
Mm.
I mean, it definitely provides more anonymity where like, it's much more difficult to see, who it's been transferred to, who's the beneficiary of the trust, and like is that process skipped of like having to go through the foreclosure process because it's in a trust and they just are assigned like beneficial interest, or like how does that work?
That's actually a really good question. I don't know the answer to that.
I would
I
Hmm.
assume it's like right of survivorship, probably. If someone were to
Hmm.
die since they're in the trust, then it would automatically go to them. Does that
mm,
sound right?
yeah.
Maybe.
Yes, the trust is actually set up to so that if you don't make a certain number of payments, and it's, you can set a trust up however you want,
Yeah.
right? But if you pass away or you fail to make payments, then yeah, right, ownership transfers back
Hmm.
automatically to the original owner.
I
But
see.
like we all said, the original owner doesn't really want it back,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, totally.
But your trustee might also, or there might be somebody in that trust that would be able to step in and help, you know.
Hmm. I see,
Uh,
because the trustee is managing it. That makes sense because
mhm.
Oh
that
yeah, true.
and that's one of the things that is super interesting because outside of a trust, people, especially a couple years ago, really used to talk about like pre-signing like a deed in lieu of foreclosure.
But
Which
those go stale.
you said what?
Some courts won't recognize them. They consider them
Right.
stale.
Right. And that's what basically what I was going to say is because when you default, right, like foreclosure is the way to ultimately either get the property sold or to repossess the property, right? Like from a bank's perspective, right? And so by skipping that process and saying, hey, we're going to pre-sign a deed in lieu of foreclosure, you are circumventing the due process of law, right? That's like the legal way of saying it. And so if you skip that process pre, default, then like what she said, it's arguably stale, right? Which I've never heard that term, but that makes sense to me. Versus a deed in lieu of foreclosure is once we've identified, okay, there's a problem. I'm going to send you a notice of default. Okay, hey, let's do a deed in lieu of foreclosure instead of foreclosing, right?
Yep.
Because
I've
deed
had to
in
do that
lieu,
with
yeah.
my borrower before. I've
Oh,
had to take
really?
back. Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. But the
How was that
unfortunate,
process? Like, what was that like for us that maybe haven't had a borrower default or something like that? Like, how did that
yeah,
work out?
it was very uncomfortable, because what I discovered a lot of things that I due diligence that I didn't do as well as I should have.
Mm.
So first of all, I didn't go see the property. It was down in Alabama, which was only an hour and a half for me. So I could have gotten there easily, but so I should have stepped foot into the property and just because it would have caused me to ask some questions. Because the thing I didn't realize is the utilities had been off for 2 years.
Wow.
And so every municipality has a different amount of time, but there's usually a length of time if the utilities aren't functioning that everything has to then come under the new codes. So when my borrower had done their um, rehab estimate, they had based it on their old strategy, which is they were using non-licensed contractors on their team, people that were good, that were skilled and everything, but they weren't licensed. and they could go in quickly and do the work. Well, this had to be brought up to code, which means all of the contractors had to be licensed. So their small budget, tripled basically.
Yeah.
And so when I contacted them like a few months into the deal, this was my first deal with this person. And I was like, hey, how's the rehab going? They're like, oh, we haven't even started. And I was like, what? And so that's when I uncovered, like, the borrower, if I can't say anything, one of my mentors taught me, over communicate with your lenders.
Yeah.
Over communicate, give them, lots of appreciation, lots of updates, all that kind of stuff, because it's their capital, right? I hadn't heard anything. So I was pretty disappointed when I called this borrower and contacted them, and they were like, yeah, we haven't moved forward. And they tried to gaslight me and like, well, we wanted to borrow all the money from you. And I was like, yeah, and I didn't want to lend you all the money, and I'm glad I didn't at this point. So
Yeah.
but
Man.
they just signed a document and I got it back. But I had an unimproved asset that I then had to figure out what to do with.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. That's very interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
So I just threw it on the MLS, and I cleaned it out. Like, I hoteled it. So I got it a little bit cleaned up. I didn't do any major work to it. And then I just put it on the MLS, and, we took a little bit of a loss on it, my partner and I, but it was better to have the asset move than it was to
For sure.
hold on to it.
That's something that we've, like, as a business, and maybe just me, like, not getting slowly less stupid every day, hopefully, is like learning like the importance of like the speed of like capital coming in and out versus trying to like maximize the total profit per deal. Because that's like, I wish if I could probably go back and tell myself anything, I probably would have told myself that earlier. Because, and I still have to remind myself that, because it's so tempting to try to maximize every single deal, especially when you're not doing a lot of deals at first. Like, you want to be like, all right, I got to like flip this and take it down, and like, you know what I mean? Like, if you could, let's say, for example, you could pick up a property. Like, we have one in Knoxville that we picked up, or that we're about to close on. We're closing on probably on Friday, with Cindy found it. And
Awesome.
yeah, it was super exciting. And this is even crazier. We stopped the sale with like 13 minutes to go.
No way.
It was crazy. It was like it was pretty awesome. We were really happy about it. And the seller was really happy too. So that's great.
Yeah, that's a great story. We're just collectors of stories.
Yeah,
that's my theory
totally.
in real estate investing. We're just solving problems. We're collecting great stories. So now we have to tell them.
Yes, for sure. I feel like we should all like have like a Ren like book or something, just like
Story
the best
time.
stories. I have an incredible story from this week that our team could tell you. I had to go
Oh my
knock on this
gosh.
guy's door like 2 hours
Oh,
ago.
dude,
That
we have a
was
few stories.
We have a few stories. Yeah, it was crazy. So, anyways, but like in that example, we could list that property like as is, and I'm thinking like, let's just say you can make 40,000 or something like that as like a profit. Then it's like, okay, I could do that, or we could renovate the property and put 30 into it to try to make 55. Then it's kind of, you see like Allison's face is kind of like, you know what I mean? Because it's like, do you want to put that money in to get 15,000 more? I guess it depends on where you are in your business. But
Well,
I would say
also
probably for most people, probably
rehabbing,
not.
Evan, is, until you actually take possession of that property and start the rehab, you can do the best job of doing a scope of work, but you start opening up walls, things change.
Yeah. 1,000%. We have a house we're rehabbing in Pegram right now that there's a basically it was an old garage, and they finished it out sort of. So it's additional square footage. And when we ripped up the floor, we found out that that whole room, which is like maybe like 400 or 500 square feet, something like that, is like completely sloped.
Oh
And
my
we didn't
gosh.
know that. And so we had to spend almost, what, I don't know, $3,000-4,000 on cement for labor and materials. Like, that's exhibit A of what you just said.
Yep.
Like, you just don't know. And that's before
Yeah.
us even opening up walls. That's just the basic floor,
Who doesn't
So,
come into real estate investing though and want home runs? Like, we all want home runs, right? And
yes.
learning to be happy with base hits is, I think
Yeah.
that's just how you become a better real estate investor.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think we ended on that. I think that was the phrase of the night. You want to be a better real
Mic
estate
drop.
investor, drop the mic, boom. Anything else that we want to cover? I feel like this was a great call. I appreciate y'all being here.
I did have one question come up.
Yeah.
We discussed two strategies to respond to the due on sale clause being pay it off
Mhm.
and refinance. Are there any situations in which those would make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say so. If you've owned the property for a little while and you have some equity and you just want to sell it, like cool.
Okay.
If you've owned the property and you have a good bit of equity and you feel like it would cash flow after refinancing, then like, yeah, cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's
and a lot
And
of the
it,
basically
flips that a lot of the deals that we do, like subject to, are flips. Like we'll
okay.
take a property subject to for like 3 months, so we don't have to raise all the money. Like I've never used a hard money lender,
Yeah,
like because
yeah,
we can just take it subject to and raise 20 or $30,000 from a private lender, and it's a lot easier that way.
yeah. Versus having to raise 200,000 or whatever to pay off the whole loan.
Mm-hmm.
Now you get a more expensive loan.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
and I would add another situation that could potentially be a benefit to another party. And that's when you start to make financial friends, you find out that people in your world have capital that they need to deploy.
Mm,
So they might have cash, they might have money in IRAs. And so you might actually have a financial friend who, let's say, like Evan said, you'd own the property for a while. And so you have a lot of equity, your pay down is pretty low, and you could help somebody else by, you know, deploying amounts less than $100,000 is sometimes more difficult
Okay.
because
yeah.
they're just not always enough to cover a whole deal or a rehab or whatever. So um, one of my mentors taught me to have a spreadsheet and always be writing down who you're meeting and what they have and what they need.
Mm, that's
Good
good.
idea.
And
That's a
just like
really good
over the years, because you guys are going to be doing this for years and years, and
Mm, that's
so
awesome. Are you currently like, do you do any lending still, or like what does that look like for you now? I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm just curious.
yeah, I do. I
Cool.
do. I don't do a lot because one of the things that happens when you lend is you sometimes have to foreclose. I have a loan that's been in default for 2 years now. A friend of mine defaulted on a loan, and I just
Hey,
haven't had the heart to foreclose on it, and I don't
Oh,
want the asset.
I'm sorry. That stinks.
It's just no. You never invest, you never lend money that you're not able to lose. So,
Yeah.
and I always learn from my mistakes. But
Mm,
um,
I
yeah,
hear you.
yeah.
That's well,
So
that's good to know though.
yeah, and I know lots of people that are lending too. So,
Very
if I
cool.
ever don't have money, I can
Yeah,
wrap my money with theirs sometimes. So,
totally. Yeah, just
yeah.
make a fee or whatever. I broker the
Hmm.
deal or yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's very
Yeah.
cool. That's something I actually considered for a while. We raise enough money where we haven't really had to ask for any additional private money like recently, which has been great because if you're only doing 2 deals a month or something like that, 2, 3 deals a month, it's like it's not hard to just keep recycling like what you have. But especially if you go raise money once, it's not like you have to keep re-raising it. Especially if you do a good job with your lenders and like I usually pay like 10 days early or something like that, anyways, just so it kind of stands out. I feel like, or at least try to.
yeah.
Um, and I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. I thought about like what if I could raise all this money and then just like make a fee for connecting them, but then I was like, I don't want to be in the middle of that if
Hmm.
something goes south. I don't know. I just felt like it was a distraction for me, but I feel
It
like there are
might
people that have the
naturally
ability.
happen, right? It
Yeah.
might just be something. I had capital, when in the beginning, I had very little to work with when I came to real estate investing. I had time and I had a little itty bit of capital. So I
Mm,
wanted to learn how to use the resources that I had. So I just engaged in those things. But
mm.
I think what you're saying is very true. Oftentimes, some of those things that we want to learn about just become distractions instead of staying in our lane and getting really good
Yeah.
at it and mastering it. And then eventually you might find yourself lending just in a
You're
natural
speaking to
progression.
me. You're speaking to me. And I think everyone on this call would probably would probably say that like raising private money is like intimidating to some
Mm-hmm.
degree. Like of like figuring out like how do I do that or how do I have that conversation?
Yep.
Is there anything that you feel like just real short that is kind of like maybe something you look out for as a lender or that you feel like other lenders are kind of looking for like when it comes to just even that conversation? Like,
Well, first of all, let me just help y'all by, you know, sharing something that I learned when I started I didn't have capital to do deals, right? I'm not in a needy position, because that's the place that I started thinking, oh, I'm so needy because I need money.
Right.
No, I'm in a abundant position where I have an opportunity that I can give somebody's money a place to grow. So it's just this micro shift in how we view
Mm,
ourselves and view the opportunity. Um, and as
so
far as
good.
a borrower relationship, like, I want to know my borrowers. Even though I've lent to my friends and they've defaulted, I still want to know my borrowers, right? I want to know, like,
Yeah.
what's your heart? What's your goals? How is this fitting into your life? And
Yeah.
because I'd like to do lots of deals with you. Financial friends are something that I want to make for life, not for just one deal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's great advice. I love what you said too about like having that shift. And the reason I'm smiling is because when you said that, I thought about the Knoxville deal. We raised them. I texted like three lenders. I usually just text kind of the same three or four people. I sent them a video of the deal, and like within like 2 minutes, the guy was like, "Hey, I want to fund it," and it was awesome because it's a fair amount. It's like $280,000 on the deal. And so he's like, I want to fund it. And we've done multiple deals together and we're super cool. Like we even went on a hike one, like, we're friends.
that's
And
awesome.
yeah, it's cool. Like I like being friends with the lender if they want to be. Some of them don't want
Yeah.
to be, and that's fine too. But um it was cool because when I sent him that, I was thinking about that. Like, this is a great opportunity for this guy. And I was thinking about initially, I calculated like what he would make every month, and I'm like, oh, dude, I can pay him 2,500 a month in interest, and like that's gonna be great for him. Like he's gonna make 2,500 just passive when he has it in his bank and he's making like less than 1%.
Yes.
And I was literally, and so it's the same thing what you just said. It's like I wasn't even thinking about the fact of like, oh, I like hope he gives it to me because I need it. It's like it wasn't that way at all. So I
I
think
know.
keep that
It's
in
because
mind.
I see that in you. That's one of the
Mhm.
reasons I've really why I'm here, is because I see that in your content. You have that integrity and you have that abundance mindset, and you're humble. So
Thanks. Is there anything what's keeping y'all from raising private money after this? What's the one thing that would keep you from like trying to go raise your first $50,000?
I don't think anything, just knowing who has it.
Yeah.
Hmm. How do you find out who has it?
Probably Facebook or probably talk to you.
I
You got him on speed
ain't
dial.
giving you my lenders,
I'll hit
bro.
up Allison. Allison got me, man.
well, I'll give you another tip.
Yes.
um, Tell everybody what you do. Tell everybody what you're passionate about. Tell everybody that you found a way to help people solve problems that you never knew existed when it comes to real estate issues, right? And practice. Tell people at the bank, because I'm telling you, deals are found standing in line at the bank.
Hmm.
Opportunities are
True, that's a
there.
good point.
And that's how you
I've
find
never I've
people.
never heard that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Like I help people in pre-foreclosure, they're like, "Oh, my brother's in pre-foreclosure."
Good
And
Exactly.
deal.
that's how it works.
Boom.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man.
I'm the person that people have learned to call when they can't call anyone else, because
Hmm.
they know I'm not going to judge them. They know that I might be able to provide a solution for them. Like, just helping people be at ease, because so much shame exists around people who are in these situations. So,
Yeah.
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
but
Letting everyone know what you said, what she just said. It's like that's a great first step. Just make your first post. Like, and I know
yeah,
Griffin has done that. I know like Cindy's done that. Alex, you may have done that. I'm not sure.
I
Um,
did a couple weeks ago. I
that's
gotta make
great.
another one now.
That's great, dude. And it's like if no one responds, nobody likes it. Nobody, you know how many videos I've made that people didn't like or comment? Whatever. It's like you put it out for the people that like want to see it and that you get to help. And like it's cool because you post that and then like the next exercise, and this is how I really raised probably my first million, like total, like of like actually available capital was just texting everybody my contacts.
Hmm.
I texted like every single person that I thought would at least have $10,000.
Hmm.
So I didn't text like the kids in my group that I used to train, like 13-year-olds, right? But everyone else I texted. And
Yeah.
I got probably I don't know, out of 300 people, I maybe got like 30 people to respond and
Hmm.
say maybe or yes or
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
But that was cool. And then I got 10 people. I mean, how many people do you have to get that have maybe $100,000, $200,000? That's like what, 10 people?
Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
It's pretty crazy. It's not very many.
No, and you just put yourself out there, and you
Yeah.
know, as real estate investors, we're going to be putting ourselves out there anyway, especially with cold calling. It's such a um, kind of leap of faith
Yeah.
that the person's even going to pick up and that they're going to be willing to hear you out and then
Hmm.
willing to sell you their home.
Yeah.
So, you know, rejection's part of the game.
Hmm.
So, what's the worst thing that can happen if you text so and so and say, "Hey, I'm doing a real estate investing business and I'm looking to raise money."
Hmm.
Uh, Worst thing that happens is you're right where you started.
Yep. And the worst thing that happens is they missed out on an opportunity, not
Yeah.
you.
Right.
Right. All right. Y'all have a wonderful night. Thank you for being here.
Do.
Thank you,
It's good
everybody.
seeing
Nice to
y'all.
meet
All right,
everyone.
bye.
Thanks,
Thanks for coming
Evan.
on, Allison. All right, I'll see you.
Bye.